Yes.
That was on the stand. Yeah, cool. So
Yeah,
he seems a cool.
We have Luke to thank for this because I think I just popped off the stand for a bit when you came over. So yeah, Luke pulled it all together for us, and he helped me all weekend. That weekend, it was incredible to have him there because I couldn't have done it without him. As I'm sure you know, when you go to these events like Strength in Depth, you know they're very busy, and you need to have time away from the stand just to be able to keep your head together. So having Luke there was instrumental, and then obviously just so happened he got talking to you, and now we're here. So it's fantastic to be on.
Yeah, very well. You had a really good spot at Sid, the location where you were. It was sort of right slap bang between the weightlifting, all the vendors, and the main athlete floor. So it's quite a good spot. I couldn't help but notice. And the elephant bar, I'll come on to that. What you had, the actual stand that you had later, but it was visually very impactful. Looked very, very different from everything there, and that interaction level was great. But no, Luke was really cool to talk to, and he obviously directed me towards his socials to get in contact. Did Sid? One comment I had from a vendor a little while ago about Sid was it wasn't as busy as potentially they had in terms of sales, which I found really interesting because I bought a shitload of. I filled a bag when I was there, so I might have been the only one buying anything. For you guys, was Sid? Did you get from it everything that you kind of hoped that you would, the numbers and everything?
Yeah. So when I initially spoke to Hope and Mark about doing it, we didn't really have an expectation. Like this was the first event like that we ever did. And from it, all we wanted to do was raise awareness for mental health. So the barrier was quite low for us, I guess, or the bar, sorry, was quite low. But in terms of what we wanted to achieve was to, as you know, hit this national statistic about how many people lose their life every year through mental health issues. And yeah, we wanted to highlight that key point, and we hit the reps to do that, which was amazing. So I think we did 600 plus reps on the team deadlift bar over the weekend, and you know we had over 100 people actually on the bar, so everyone had to sign a disclaimer, obviously for health and safety reasons. I've set this charity up. I don't want it to be killed off by someone suing us, so we get everyone to sign the disclaimer. So there was over 100 people lifted the bar, and I would argue that I probably had double that in conversations about mental health. So people that didn't necessarily lift the bar but just came to talk to us. There was one lady who came over and literally said, I've been coming to these events for years and I've never seen such a big stand for mental health. And she said, that's what it's always needed. It's almost like it was becoming a unspoken word, where actually it's a big part of all strength sports, not just CrossFit, not just weightlifting, strongman, powerlifting. In every strength sport you'll have mental challenges. So it's important to be open about that and be, you know, when we go on our periodization for our training plans and things like that, you have peaks and troughs, and you're going to have times where you're not of a mental sound mind, and sometimes you might feel like that's not normal. But what we're there to do and what we went there to do was to show that it is normal to have mental health challenges and to talk about it. So yeah, from us, we weren't selling anything per se. We had hoodies and stuff there, but we weren't there to sell them. That wasn't our remit. Our remit was go down and showcase mental health for those within the strength community and try and show that it's okay to talk, which absolutely is.
Which is an excellent message. And like you said, so a bit of background on me, I won't go into me too much. Powerlifting and weightlifting coach, CrossFit as well. So I'm in and around people from the age of 4 up to, I've got a current guy who's 72 that's lifting. So everyone in between, all abilities. And for sure, I think the last, especially since the pandy, since 2020, I think a lot of people have come to terms with the fact that everyone struggles from time to time, and it's okay that you're in that position. It's not great, but it's understandable. It's completely understandable, and a lot more people go through things like that than we initially thought. And I think 2020 was a big turning point for that. Anyway. Come back to you, Liam. So what I'd like to do, if that's all right, just have it. I know, you know, people like yourself that are in these companies and doing really good causes. Usually they don't like to talk about themselves. However, just a little bit of background about yourself, please, Liam, about maybe a little bit about what's your name? Where'd you come from? So a bit about yourself, And then just kind of gradually we'll work our way back towards Together We Lift, and then we'll focus back on there.
Yeah. So I'll go right the way back. So I was very young when I realized that potentially my mental health wasn't great, in terms of like I'd always have these like roller coaster rides where I was like really happy one minute, really low the next. But it didn't become obvious until my adult years, in terms of like where it came to a head effectively. But even when I was younger, my mum always said like you're a roller coaster, you're erratic. So I always knew that my mental health was going to be a challenge. I used to play football, ice hockey, all of the sports that we love to play when we're younger and fitter and able to do so with our bodies not breaking down. And even with all of those, I was always the goalkeeper, or I was the one man on his own. And that was a very, again, in a mental state, I had to be there, and it kept me focused and kept me not worrying about outside of what I was doing. You had to be dialed in. It wasn't necessarily a teamwork piece, which is ironic given what we built now as a charity. But so sort of through my 20s, I worked in the corporate world. I worked my way up. I was doing rather well for myself. But I got to a point within the corporate sector where I realized that they didn't really care about your mental health, if I'm perfectly honest. And again, don't want to slag any businesses off and won't talk too greatly about the business it was. But at the point when I needed the most, they basically ripped away all of the mental health resource that was there, really. And it caused me a few challenges in terms of finding my confidence again. Whilst in the corporate world, fitness was my hobby and I loved it. And whether that was, like I say, ice hockey, I was still playing in my mid-20s. Obviously, I did a bit of gym work within that, but it wasn't necessarily my main focus. Then I ran marathons. I actually ran one with my sister once as well. That was really painful, not because it was my sister, but because when you're trying to match pace, it's really hard. You're using different muscle groups when you're trying to tone down. So that was really challenging. So I've always had that sort of fitness background as a hobby. But then I wanted to become a strength and conditioning coach, because I felt like I had enough knowledge and experience across multiple sports, boxing being another, where I could translate that into strength support. Because with every sport I ever did, I was all in. So again, a bit like my erraticness, I'm all in. Like I'm either all in or all out. And I was all in on every sport I ever did. So I had training plans, nutrition plans. I was always like dialing it all in. So I had all the information, but I wasn't qualified to put it over there. So a bit like everyone else during the pandemic, went through courses and things like that. I was competing in strongman myself at the time, prior to pandemic. And when lockdown hit, that kind of threw me into my home gym a lot. And I was struggling with my mental health through that period quite heavily, coming to terms with the fact that we were working from home, and used to be that the commute was my headspace. Well, when you worked from home during COVID, it was straight out the door, and I have 3 kids. So it was literally straight out of the bedroom, bang, 3 kids. And you had no time to digest or go from work to personal life. So I really struggled to adapt to that, I would say. And it shone a light on elements of my life that I just wasn't happy about, in terms of how I reacted to situations, my emotional state. And at this point, I'd not really confronted the mental health issues. As I say, like that was all when I was younger. I knew it was there, but I never confronted it. It was almost like lurking in the background, waiting to bubble up and become something. And then, it was in 2021 when it all came to a head, and I decided that was enough and I didn't want to be here anymore. And luckily, a very good friend of mine saved my life. And that's why I'm still here today. From that moment, because I was in a financial position to do so, I got private help and I had therapy. My coach, I still speak to her today, Holly Brooks. She's amazing. She's really good for me. Happy Healthy CBT if you want to find her. But she's fantastic for me. And the way her therapy worked was it was about obviously identifying what my true purpose is. And through that, we uncovered that my actual true purpose is that I want to raise awareness for mental health, and I want to help others instead of like being selfish and just training for myself. I want to create a safe space for others. My wife's a qualified PT, so we set her up a fitness studio. This was during 2021, just out of our shed. So we built up our shed to be this personal training studio for her to be able to coach and train people, obviously with the mental health message and undertone in there of providing that private facility for people to train in. And I really struggled, and I still do since the pandemic, to go to actual public gyms. Private facilities have become my safe space to train. I've trained in the last 3 years in 2 gyms. Like prior to the pandemic, I was all over the country. I used to work on the road a lot, so I'd be in gyms all the time. But certainly since the pandemic, I've become very conscious about my body image and the fact that I'm now a strength and conditioning coach, that I have to look a certain way. And then I get conscious that if I'm during a phase in my training plan, I might not be lifting as heavy as I normally would. And if I'm in a gym, it gets in my head. So even now, I still struggle with that element, and that's why our private facility kind of bridges the gap for certain people. So the business for Buds Fitness has now grown and is still got its private facility. We've also got an e-commerce part of our business, but from my side, I coach people as well, and it's not about well, it is obviously about the physical, but it's as much about the mental, because what I've discovered as a personal trainer and as a coach is that, and I'm sure you'll agree, you almost feel like a therapist sometimes, like, because
that is your job.
Yeah. Once they hit that plateau in their training plan, or they don't quite get the reps they thought they were going to get, then you ask them the question of how you're feeling. That's when the motive answers comes out, and the real reason that they're not performing comes out. So what I want to do long term is I want part of the level 2 qualification for personal trainers within a gym setting to include mental health first aid. And that's long term what we want to get out of this. But for the short term is to kind of grow a mental health community that understands, that it's okay to talk. So I always talk about being that sign that someone needs to see. So like, I've never competed on a high level. I'm not some super action man. I'm not built like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm a very typical male in the UK, without wishing to put it out there, but I'm very typical in terms of what my makeup, my genetics are. So if I can struggle, the everyday man can. And it's great that people like Tyson Fury have come out in recent years and talked about theirs, but there's not many 6'8" men in the world that become world champions. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to relate in that way. Whereas for me, I've come from a corporate setting. I left school at 16, had no grades, worked hard to get to where I was, and then felt the pressure come in on me and realized that life is more important than work and money, and that actually I want to focus more time on my family, which is what I've got now by obviously working within Buds Fitness. Yeah. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour.
No, that's great. And a lot of talking points there. So I think if we all sit down and think hard, I think we can all probably find instances of varying degrees of mental health issues throughout our life. Now, obviously, the point I'm getting at here is I don't know if you know a guy called Stephen Rayner. He's quite big on TikTok. He's had him on a different show that I do with a good friend of mine called John. He's a big advocate for mental health. He does a lot of work on socials, talking about it. I was talking to him the other day about style, communication, how we get through to people on these terms. And one of the difficult things that at the foundational level, the one thing that I find hard to kind of digest is, how do you go about setting your communication style about all of this? And the reason I say that is because I think everyone everyone receives information quite differently. So if you think about it as a coach, some people need visual, some people need audio, and some people need tactile. So we have different ways of getting through to people. And then you've got the male-female divide. So I think men and women learn slightly differently. This is generally speaking, obviously not going down to specifics of 8 billion people. Now, we talked about the differences in communication, and the tricky bit that I found the other day was the level of self-diagnosis going on with mental health issues. And one point that Stephen made was that there's quite a big number of people that are self-diagnosing with really important mental health issues, and it seems to have diluted the conversation over the last few years. At the basis of the foundational level with Together We Lift and with what you're doing, how do you make sure that you are becoming a safe space for people to come to and talk and communicate? And do you make a differentiation between different states of mental health, or are you open to everyone? Is there a degree that you kind of look for when you're talking to people?
So our events as a whole, the way they work is effectively we try and regionalize them. Okay. And the reason for that is, as you say, everyone is different and at different stages, but it also works geographically. So what impacts someone's mental health in Aberdeen is going to be very different to someone who has mental health issues in Wisbech in Cambridgeshire, where it's a different area entirely to what it is to someone in Manchester living in a city centre and dealing with the hustle and bustle of city life, so to speak. So we always regionalise our events anyway. Obviously, when we did SID, it was different because we were actually in front of people from all over the UK. So then we had to be a bit more open and receptive to the people and the communication level that we sat at. But in terms of when we do our events, it's very much geared around the locality. So we'll work with local peer-to-peer support groups. So again, we'll go into it more in a bit anyway, but Together We Lift, we're not just an event and gone. We're not like these event promoters who just want to come into town, have a great day and then go away. We're there to sort of build a community. So what we do is we work with local mental health charities. We then find peer-to-peer support groups, as well as mental health groups that might have, I don't know, like Saturday morning kitchens where they sit and talk about food for the week and plans like that, where it's all a bit more informal. And that's how our communication style is it's a lot more informal than it is formal. And the purpose of Team Deadlift Bar is that the idea is that when you sit talking like we are now, it can be hard to talk about it. Like I even struggled earlier, like there's bits I've missed out on my journey there because I struggle still when it's face to face like this. But if we were in a more sort of gym environment where we're sat talking whilst lifting weights, but we're not directly looking at each other, it doesn't feel forced anymore. And it creates that element of trust and respect, because you're not forcing the conversation. So when you talk about communication levels, we'll work with anyone on any level, but what we try and do is signpost. We'll never diagnose. It's not on us. We're not therapists in that way. We're not doctors. We're not trained in that element. But what we want to do is a bit like with mental health first aid training, is be able to signpost to the right areas and spot signs, because that's what mental health first aid training can give you. And that's what we want to obviously deliver to gyms all around the UK. So
yeah, which is awesome. I had a couple of people here. I don't know what's going on with the names. This happened on Savon yesterday. Peter Rogers and Deborah Glonek. Singing your praises there, Liam. So the absolutely right. And I guess the point that I'm trying to get at is there's no unique one way of looking at mental health and the communication style that goes with it. And what I've found is the existing charities and the existing voices that I've seen always seem to have a very similar approach to things. It's always, we're here to talk. It's good to talk. We're here to listen. And one thing that I found apparent last month during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month was there was this big influx initially. A lot of people saying, I'm here to talk, the usual thing. Unfortunately, for a lot of people, that is a very just commonly said just quote. And it, to people that are struggling with the mental health issues to the extreme, those simple taglines tend to fall on deaf ears. The people that are in those deep positions, just saying those words, it doesn't mean, it needs substance, it needs action, it needs purpose behind those words, it needs a simple click of a mouse, it needs you know, the role that Samaritans played for such a long time was you had a phone number, you call it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people out there now that will, it seems like a buzzword, it seems like a just, I'm here to help, I'll listen. What I found whilst looking at the way that your company works and the way that your system works is truly beneficial, because it doesn't just say we're here to listen. It's not, it's good to talk, like BT used to say. Okay? It's we're here to put you in the right direction, to the right people that you need in your life. It's not just it's okay to talk, because again, not everyone wants to talk. Not everyone wants to just talk about their problems. People want action, they want purpose, they need drive, they need vision, they need people that will take them in and give them that purpose. And a lot of the time, and you could probably correct me here, but generally speaking, I think, from what I've seen and what I've heard and what I've experienced, is generally speaking, men need purpose and people need purpose. Everyone needs purpose. But from my personal experience and with people in my circle, I had a good friend, decided it was his time, probably about 5-6 weeks ago now. And one thing he'd always struggled was he never found his purpose. He never found that thing that made him unique and gave him that value set and made him realize how much value he had. He never found that. And I think the one thing that you guys do so well, from what I've seen and from what you've said so far, is that people can have that. You know, and from your personal experience, you said you found your value and your purpose was to teach, to instruct, and to help people with this. Yeah. That's, I think, the really good thing that I found from Luke when I talked to him, albeit very briefly for 10 minutes at the stand, and from having a look at your socials and the links that you have with people around the country, is that you direct people towards value. You direct them towards purpose. And that's the important thing for me and for a lot of people. They just need that. They don't need to just talk. Some people just do need to sit down and get stuff off their chest and talk.
So what we're trying to do is, like I say, build that ecosystem within regional areas. So like next month, I thought we were in August already, but in August, we're back up to Aberdeen for the second time. And that's because we've already built or started to build that ecosystem with the mental health charities working with the local peer-to-peer support groups and the local independent gym. So that builds a community, so then we can return year after year, growing the event around that community. Within our event goodie bags, we pride ourselves on not just making it like let's just stuff a protein bar in there or whatever. We pride ourselves on ensuring that it's got information in there. So it has leaflets for their local peer-to-peer support groups. It has leaflets in there for their local mental health charity, so that it signposts them without me having to, or them having to have that whole conversation with someone. It can just be, look, there's an Andy's Man Club on a Monday night at 7:30 in Barnsley. Well, that's perfect for me. I'm going to go. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I don't need to tell them. It's in their bag. They can see the locations and it works. So that's what we're trying to build. And it was something that when I did the very first one, that was through one of my high phases. As I say, I'm very sporadic with my moods, or was. Not so much now. I'm heavily medicated and worked very hard on my CBT. So I know how to deal with it better. But when I very first started, the first event we did was on 6 weeks' notice. I turned it from an idea to an event in 6 weeks. And I couldn't have done it without, obviously, my family around me, and a bloke called Ash Lappage, who he actually owns the bar that we use. It's not actually my bar, it's his bar, but he lets me use it for all the events. And he was the one that said to me, if you want to put on an event in 6 weeks, mate, crack on, use my gym. And it was like, I didn't at that time realize that there was that much support out there for this. And he just got behind me from day one. And, I've had quite a few gyms along the way now. And, just last week, so we only actually, as a CIC, signed off on the 16th of July. It's taken me 6 months to get it over the line, but we're finally there now. And it's taken that time, but within a week of being set up, we had a gym called Nova Performance, which is in St Ives, hosting a fundraiser for us, which again is outstanding. And that is the sort of thing we want to see more of as we continue to grow, because we're totally not for profit in what we do, but we can only do what we can do if we have funding. So it's like that, it's a catch-22. Like none of it ever comes to us as directors. So we've got 5 directors to our business. All of us are volunteers, and we all have equal share, which means that every decision about money spent has to go through the board, which then means we have to have a majority vote to spend that money. So at no point, if I then went, oh, we got 20 grand in the pot, I'm just going to pay myself. That doesn't happen. It won't happen, and it can't happen.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So we're built in a way now that we can now accept these fundraising efforts and start to then pay for the events to take place, so that we can then reduce the cost of the events. So at the moment, for example, we're doing an event in Aberdeen on the 31st of August. 30th is my wife's birthday. She'll kill me if I got it wrong. 31st of August, we're in Aberdeen doing an event with Nicola Buchan, and that's our second one with them. But the cost to run that event, when it comes to insurance, promotional assets, T-shirts, goodie bags, all the rest of it, that costs money. So of that £30 at the moment, about £12.50, £12.80 is going back to the local mental health charity. The rest of it kind of pays for the running costs. What we hope to do within the next year is apply for grants, secure sponsors, and grow that pot so that effectively T-shirts, goodie bags, insurance is paid for at the beginning of the year. And then those events can be free. We don't even have to charge 30 quid, because what we want to do is actually hit those that are suffering with mental health. And arguably the biggest killer is actual financial worry. So if therefore they're worried about finances, they're not going to spend 30 quid to attend an event. So it's like you're almost missing the spot. So what we're going to do within the next year is the plan is to secure enough funding to allow us to do these events for free. When we say free, we'll run it similar to Cancer Research do the Race for Life, where you do it for free, but you have to fundraise independently to help us raise money for the localized mental health charity. So, for example, when we do our local event in Cambridgeshire, that's for CPSL Mind, which is Debbie, who's commented kindly. We donate the profits from the event to her, not her personally, but her charity. And the funds are then spent on local mental health initiatives, as opposed to it going to a national charity. And again, I don't want to slag off any national charities, but instead of it going to a national charity and that just going where the population is, which is in cities, which then means it avoids the rural areas, which ironically are where this higher rates of life-ending mental health issues come from. Hence why we're in Aberdeen, we're in Swansea, we had an event in Scarborough this year, we've had an event obviously in Cambridgeshire for many years, we've done Yorkshire. Because we're trying to hit those areas where it's a little bit more rural, and you are seeing poor mental health. So one of the routes we want to look at next year is working with young farmers, because again, is another area where mental health is really bad at the moment, and sadly they have access to tools that can take their life very quickly. So we'd love to work with charities from the Young Farmers Institute and work that way, and kind of build like a farm strength event, which would be really cool, because you could do farmers walks with different like milk floats and things like that, and you can create stuff out of farming equipment that would make the event more fun. So the event days at the moment are very strongman led, but that's just because that's my background. But we are looking at trying, and hence why we went to SID, we are looking to sort of broaden that so that we can do CrossFit events, we can do powerlifting events, and kind of integrate into the different strength areas. What we'd like is for Together We Lift to be sort of a sign, as I said earlier, about mental health, so that when people see it, they know that that's what it's for. A bit like when people see the Mind logo, they instantly think about mental health. For the strength community, we want Together We Lift to be just that, where people can look on and go, oh, that's one of those mental health events. I want to sign up to one of them. And it doesn't matter if you're in a CrossFit background, doesn't matter if you're a strongman background, powerlifting background. Our events are very versatile. We can integrate, like when you think about CrossFit, they do farmers, they do sandbags, they do slam balls, they do deadlifts. Do you know what I mean? Like you can easily transfer it over. We just need to understand the gym first before we start laying it out. So it's exciting. And as I say, we're actually, the second fundraiser for us is taking place in October at a gym called Imperial Bodies in Daventry. And again, they're not necessarily a strongman gym.
No.
They're actually more of a women's fitness gym. They have some really strong people that do lift in there. But again, they're doing the fundraiser for us. We're taking the bar, and therefore we can still do the team deadlift bar, because you can have 2 people on it, you can have 3 people on it, you can have 4 people on it.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to shift the weight that we put on that bar, which at Strength in Depth was obviously 170 kilos. And again, we saw the girls from Fit Aid, they did the bar, and it was 3 of them. But it doesn't matter, because the message remains the same. So the whole message behind the team deadlift bar is that it requires communication and trust, because you can't just pick it up. Because if you just pick it up and haven't spoken to the person next to you, you're pulling the arms out of your socket. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to move. So you have to communicate about coming up and also coming down, because if you come down too quick, same thing. The person might still be at the top, and then all of a sudden their arms come out of their socket. So there's got to be an element of communication, but also you've got to trust, because you've got to trust that they're going to be able to make it. And if they're not, they have to tell you they're struggling. And that's the irony behind all of this, is that ultimately that's all you need to do with your mental health. If you could communicate and trust the person next to you, you would tell them that you were struggling. If you can do it on the bar, you should do it in life. That's the kind of message we're going for with the team deadlift bar. But yeah, so we can use that bar to simulate that and get that message into any fitness industry. Do you know what I mean? Any powerlifters, any strongmen, any CrossFitters, you all do deadlifts. So there's no reason you can't have a go on the team deadlift bar and, again, receive the same message and same understanding from it.
Absolutely. No, 100%. So I've got a comment here from Mr. Ramirez. Talking about how PTSD and depression for years. Yeah. Help me through dark times, my kids. Yes, absolutely. Now, funny enough, Bob Odenkirk, I think that's his surname, guy that played Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul. He was on a show recently, and I saw a clip yesterday, which I absolutely loved. And the interviewer asked him, "Who are you jealous of?" And which is a really strange question to ask someone, but I love it. I really love that. Who are you jealous of? And he said, anyone with little kids in the house. And his reason is that it was the only time in his life when he's never had to question his purpose. He's never had to question his role, his value. He knew he was dad, and he knew that his job right there and then was to pick those toys up on the way to the stairs, or to give them a bath, or to get them their food. That's as an individual, that was his only time in life where he knew exactly what his job was that day and his value and his purpose. And it was this light bulb moment for me when I saw that. I was like, yeah, like that is it. That's purpose. That's true value. And anyone that's been a parent will know that feeling. And when he said he was jealous, it really hit, because my wife's pregnant. Our third's coming in December. And people, I'm 40. I know I don't look it. But like a lot of my mates are saying, you are crazy, you're mad. Like, why are you having another kid? There's 7 years gap between 6 years gap between our youngest and this next one. And I homeschool. I look after the kids in the daytime and that kind of thing. Educate them around gym and work, and my wife does as well. That's where I find my value. That's my purpose. And one thing, and from a selfish perspective, I'm going to carry on having kids. Because that's where I see my value and my purpose. But coming back to the reality of that is that on the other side of that, when the kids have grown up, when we stop having kids, what then? Where's the value? That I think through a lot of people, including my dad, that step from being the responsible, in control male of the house to then letting go, then what? And you see this time again, people coming out of the military. They have this robust, strict value and job to do. But then what? And I think, and you might be able to reflect on this a little bit, but, the pandemic came around. everyone felt like they were on train tracks up until 2020. Everyone had a role. Everyone had a purpose. We knew what was going on. There was structure. The world was right. Although we know clearly it wasn't, but everything was on tracks.
Yeah.
And then it derailed. And then people think, oh, fuck, what is the point? What is the purpose? Where is my value? What am I contributing? What do I get contribute back to me? All these questions started coming out. And I think like a lot of fortunate people, and you said something earlier, which I really liked, is that as you know, a PT, as a coach or whatever, we are therapists, and especially PTs. I think when you're in the group setting, after a little while, you pick up on that, you know, people walking in, they're a bit more quieter than normal, or they don't let on, you know, or they're gone the other way, they're too chatty. In the group setting, and you pick up on those little nuances, you pick up on these little bits that, you know, that the little fluctuations in behaviors, and you do pick up on that. Any decent coach will be able to pick up on those little vibe changes, little ripples in the pond. But when you're personal training, or when you're in small groups, the conversation is what people truly come for. You know, I've got 5 clients that I see more than once weekly in the gym. And the way that I see it is that the physical development that we get from the gym they can get that by going in the gym on their own. They can get ChatGPT now to come up with what I can do when I'm programming. That's not the hard bit. And the reason that when people say you're worried about your job, you're worried about coaching, you're worried about your PT and your services with AI, fucking no way. Because I know that the value I give when I'm PTing and when I'm coaching is these things. The people talk to me, people communicate, they get an opinion, they get honest feedback, but they get empathy and they get someone to talk to. There's not a chance in hell an AI or a robot's going to do that. So I know our industry is a really bloody good place for people that are struggling, that want to talk, but don't necessarily want to sit down on a sofa, lay down with someone with a notepad listening to them. We have this incredible and cheaper method of therapy and communication. It's what it walk into any gym and you'll find 100 people that are struggling, but they've found somewhere where they can exercise those demons and talk and communicate. And it's one of the real cool benefits about being part of a members club, rather than a David Lloyd where you're putting your earphones on and you're just on your own and you're just doing your own thing and then you go home. You're anonymous. And what do we know about that is that the last thing you want to be, or you should be, sorry, the last thing you should be when you're struggling is anonymous.
Yeah. And again, we work really closely with Robert Handy from the independent gyms. He has a website which signposts independent gyms. So that led me on quite nicely to that point that, like you say, no disrespect to David Lloyd, Pure Gyms, they all have their place. But if you're struggling with your mental health, there's no better place than an independent gym, where there's people there that will be able to talk to you, will be able to understand you. The gym owner generally is always there, will be open to conversations. And that's why, for me, if these coaches and these personal trainers can have mental health first aid training, they'll be able to spot those signs clearer. It will become more obvious to them, and then they'll be able to recommend those services to others. And yeah, another thing we're looking to do within sort of a 5-year model is work with the independent gyms and Strength Register to highlight the gyms that have mental health first aid training, so that we can almost provide a bit like if you're looking for a gym with disability accessibility, we want to find gyms that have mental health accessibility. So people that have mental health first aiders on board, people that have, or gyms, sorry, that have mental health first aiders on board, as well as gyms that have open mental health conversations. They should have like almost a little symbol on the independent gyms and on the Strength Register website to kind of grow that out.
I couldn't agree more. And a couple of bits around that. So I don't know how familiar you are with the CrossFit scene, but do you know James Hobart?
Yeah,
James. Yeah,
well,
so he
personally, but yeah.
He put a video out. Well, it's been reshared and a lot in the last couple of weeks. He did a podcast interview and he was talking about the CrossFit space has changed. People say, "Oh, it's changed in the last 5 years." And he said, "Yeah, damn right, it's changed. It's a good thing to change and develop, incrementally grow. We expand on what we had. It doesn't mean we're completely binning what we had." the CrossFit scene has always been cutthroat. It's always been the fire breathers. It's always been the hard stuff, shirts off, shinning yourself on the boxes and cleaning and all that kind of shit. But what we've been able to do in the last 5 years, and arguably the 10, is build an understanding and awareness of people that are coming in the gym. And I think a lot of good gym owners will respond to their community and will grow to accommodate for a wider community. That's the whole point. It's for anyone, but not everyone. Now, so John that I've just poked up in it, or Jon as he's called in it, he's my good friend that I do another show with. We've got a really good friend called Athena Perez, who is in the US. She runs something called Scaled Nation. And what it is, through her own history in her past, she developed this seminar and this learning called Larger Bodied Athletes. And it works with morbidly obese people and people with, bigger bodies. And as coaches, it's this extra qualification, this extra seminar that coaches and teaches people about working with people and getting them in the gym, the challenges they face, how to communicate, how to not judge, how to not assume, and to adapt your sessions and your coaching communication and style around people with respect and allowing them the space to actually work and develop as part of our community. That's the whole purpose of Scaled Nation. And what James Hobart was saying is, we've got all these cool people like yourself, like Athena, like Hannah Academy program, that are adding to what we've got and growing our community base and allowing gym owners to get more people in the door that we can help. The very essence of being a gym owner, a personal trainer, and running a club is that you want to help people. We're full of, that's what we are here for. And the people that aren't, don't survive in our industry. Like you said, we're therapists and we want to help people. That's why we're in it. And our very business model, as opposed to the larger groups, is we want people in the gym more often. We have more instances per week of attendance than other regular gyms. We need it. We rely on it. Whereas David Lloyd's at 1.2 to 1.5 attendances a week with 4,000 members. Yeah. We rely on 150 to 200 members attending 3.5 to 5 times a week. That's how we operate, and how we do that is, and again, this is one thing that I've just remembered that I wrote down. Do you think there's a difference? There's a reason that there's a difference in the demographics being younger people at the David Lloyd's and the Pure gyms. This is UK references, by the way, or Globo, let's call it for everyone. The younger people tend to generally go to the Globo, and the over 35s tend to lean towards going towards group sessions and community-driven gyms. Do you think that's because as we get older, we appreciate that communication and that camaraderie in the community? Generally speaking, I know we have got a lot of younger people in CrossFit and the strength sports. But do you think that's probably why? Do you think we learn to appreciate that level of communication as we get a bit older?
Personally, yeah, I think it's a maturity point. I think, again, when you're younger, you probably have that whole, I'm stronger on my own, I'll just get on with it. Whereas when you get older, you realize that working together, without wishing to play on our slogan, together we're stronger, and that we can actually do more together. And like you say, you then get into that community-led gym as opposed to that faceless, again, Pure Gyms or David Lloyd's, that has no person. It's just a business. So, I suppose I think it is from my perspective, I think that's more of a maturity standpoint, where you start to realize that you're not in it on your own. You're not selfish. You can go a bit more into a community-led space.
Cool. Now, one thing so this is going to be a little bit contentious, and I'm really trying hard to communicate this at the moment, generally speaking. I talked to my wife about this the other day, and this isn't to be nasty or mean to people, so please bear that in mind, is I think a lot of, talking personally from a male perspective, but a lot of people perhaps might be put off talking about their mental health issues and coming forward to people because of the people that are on the receiving end or do it publicly. They don't want to be seen like those people. They struggle to associate with these type of people. That's, again, it's not to be nasty, it's not to be mean to people's style, but it's a really bloody tricky line to walk between coming off as speaking from a victim's perspective and being too harsh and not caring enough. If I was to run a charity like yourself, I would find that way too difficult to it's like a tightrope. If you go to one way, you're going to put a lot of people off because of the communication, and the other way, it's not going to be enough. You're not going to be listening ears for people to want to talk to you about. How the hell have you been able to do that and manage to walk that line? Because you've done a really bloody good job of doing that. Was there any process in thought on that? Is it just the way that you are? Does it come naturally? Is it something you've even thought about?
I honestly haven't thought about it.
No.
And I thank you for the compliment. The directors will tell you I'm not very good at taking compliments. They've also given me a list of things I'm not allowed to say as well. Right. But yeah, no, in terms of that, I suppose for me, it just comes down to authenticity, because I've been there. And as I said to you earlier, I'm very open about the fact that I am just your average male in the UK. Like, I'm nothing special. I haven't got a six-pack, shredded abs and muscles like Arnie. Do you know what I mean? I am just your if you looked at me in the street, you wouldn't look twice. You'd just go, there's another bloke who's 6'1" with brown hair. That's it. Like, I'm not anything different to anyone else. So I find that maybe I'm more relatable than, as I said to you earlier, about like Tyson Fury or, you know, these professional athletes who are coming out more with their mental health, like footballers. I think Dele Alli's come out recently in football, hasn't he, and been very open. But you can't resonate with his journey because he's talking about earning 200 grand a week and being upset because, and you're like, we're all struggling to pay our bills, and you're sat there on 200 grand. I mean, everyone can struggle. Don't get me wrong. You know, and that's what we want to encourage, is that, you know, genuinely anyone can struggle. There is no discrimination on mental health. It's not selective. It's something that happens to you, or or you're lucky enough to be able to go through life being able to handle it, because we all have mental health. It's just how we handle it. So, like, as I said to you earlier, like for me, when I was younger, I knew there was something wrong with me. Like, in terms of, there was always something in the back of my mind that was quite self-deprecating and was quite isolated and quite, as I say, high-low, would focus on the negatives as opposed to the positives. And it wasn't until I got to my 30s that it really then sort of magnified and became the big issue that it was. So, as I say, from my perspective, I suppose I've seen it from both sides, because when I was 20, I never talked about it. I never wanted to talk about it, and I never understood it. But now I'm slightly older. Don't have tall person. But I thought 6'1" is average, no? I don't know what the average height to a man is, but
well, in Holland it might be, but yeah.
But yeah, so from my perspective, as I say, I suppose I just see it and treat everyone as I want to be treated. My nan's always been very good at sort of whipping that into me and making sure that ultimately we all treat each other with respect. It's an old school generational thing, isn't it? But yeah, that's very much how I treat people.
Yeah. Now, social media.
Hate it.
I've seen a lot of talk recently on social media by social influencers about the negativity of social media. Well, there's a weird sort of irony there, is that the platform and the use of it that they've been given is more often than not the allure that people are trying to be on social media for, and then they have the negative, aspects of it come around. Are there any changes that you would like to see on social media that individuals can make to and contribute towards a better system of social media, rather than just going delete? Is there any way that they can navigate their way around?
Again, like, the algorithm is designed to follow what you like and see. So don't like things that you don't actually like. Don't like it because your mate posted it and go, oh, well, my mate posted it, so I just want to give him a like. Well, no, if he said something within that you don't like, if you've liked that post, the algorithm doesn't know that's your best mate. So the algorithm is going to push whatever he said back to you. So you've just got, for me, it's all very algorithm led, and you kind of just got to work to that knowledge and go, you know what? All right, John, that was a bit controversial. I'm not going to like it. And if he hates me for it, he hates me for it, and he's not my real friend. And you kind of just got to be very authentic with what you personally like. So like the algorithm will feed you what you want to see. If you hover too long looking at a video of a dog eating a banana, you're going to get a load more dogs eating bananas. Do you know what I mean? Perfect. So as I say, from my standpoint, I hate social media, but I need social media in order to build what we're building, because without the community, these events don't happen. Without the community, we don't get our name recognized. We don't get out there and get people to understand that it's okay to talk. So yeah, it's one of those necessary evils, and it's something I've had to battle hard with myself. So again, I've got my own business in Buds Fitness, and I do their social media. I do my social media for Together We Lift, and I hate it. And something that I'm doing with Buds Fitness is going to have a YouTube channel, and I see it on there more than I do anywhere else, where you get certain comments on the comments that come through it. So for example, I did a punch bag review on my Buds Fitness YouTube channel, and the comments were just like, not hitting the bag hard enough, technique shit. And it's like, I literally said at the outset of the video, I am not Tyson Fury or Daniel Dubois. I am just here, an average man, showing you what this punch bag is all about. Yeah. And yet people in the comments, and that's social media in a nutshell, is they're happy to talk about it like that. But if they were stood there as the punch bag, they wouldn't want to take it. So I hate it, but it's a necessary evil. And I would just say, follow your interests, and make sure you're not following those just because they're your friend, or just because you think that they're good. It's a case of, if their visions, their values, their beliefs don't follow yours, don't engage with it. Otherwise, you're going to get fed their turd as well.
Yeah, good point. So I want to get your opinion on something. If I listen to a song that has a lot of meaning to me, negatively, right? So let's say a song that was at a funeral of your grandma, right? For example, that will put me in a spin, right? So do I avoid listening to that song?
I would personally. So I've actually got a really fresh example of this. My mum and stepdad got married, or had their vow renewals at the weekend after a 25-year anniversary.
Nice.
And it was beautiful, lovely, but I'm an emotional kid, right? And when this certain song came on, I walked out because I knew I'd cry, right? So prime example is, I do avoid it, because for me, I don't want to hark back those bad memories. I want to only focus on the positives, but that's just the way I deal with it. Some would say that that is actually a negative way to look at it, because you're almost avoiding. It's like an avoiding technique, but music's one of those things you can avoid. That's not like a trauma where I'm not dealing with. It's just a song I don't want to hear. Yeah. Okay. Like with the trauma, I would say go into it knowing that it's a trauma that you need to handle. But if it's a song, you can escape a song. Like it's not going to come back and get you. So, hello, Sean. So the reason I say that is that I have that response. So I've got this thing called misophonia, which I don't know if you know about it. A few people in my world have also got it. There's this relationship with sound and emotion, and it's particularly strong, right? So someone chewing loudly, someone with a yogurt pot and they're scraping the bottom of the yogurt pot too often, or too much, or excessive music, right? It winds me up. It's a red flag. It's road rage. It's fucking, red mist time, right? So the way that I combat that, because I know it's a me issue, right? So I try not to be environments where that's going to happen. So I kind of avoid it rather than work on it, because there's nothing I can really work on it, right? I'll either laugh or punch someone. So I just walk away, right? Yeah. So my question, and this is something that I want to get to the meat of with someone, you might not be the right person to talk to. I might need to go and see a therapist about this, right? But with that, I know exposure to, and the reason I said about that a song as an example, I know exposure or actively choosing to listen to that thing will put me in a spin,
but a death spin that I call it, right? So I will actively avoid listening to that. Do you think there are conversations and topics and methods that people are using that they should probably avoid for their mental health? Sometimes I see people talking about things, and it's almost as if about talking about it manifests this state of mind that they then move into a point of struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, is that a trauma that they need to really see someone about and talk to about? Or like you walking out of that wedding, is it one of those things that you're just going to have to learn to distance yourself from?
So I'll ask you it in a different way. Okay. If the kettle is hot and you touch it and you get hurt, do you touch the kettle again?
I wouldn't. My son would, but I wouldn't. Yeah.
But do you see what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there's things in life that you can actually avoid, and it's not going to be detrimental to you to not do it. So if it hurt you before and you know it's going to hurt you again, don't go back and do it again. That would be my stance on it. I'm not a therapist, but that's how I would deal with it. Similarly to the fact that, so actually competing at strongman events became something of a negative to me. I enjoyed the atmosphere, but hated competing because I didn't like winning or losing. That's why Together We Lift events are actually training events as opposed to competitive events. Yeah. Because for me, I work really hard in the gym. As I said to you, I'm obsessive, right? So I'll get the nutrition right. I'll get my training plan right. So if I don't win, my mindset's gone. So therefore, I've cut that out of my life. I don't compete now. I'm going to go to a competition in a week's time where I'm literally only going to get 100 kilos overhead, and that's me done. Nothing else is like, we've got 5 events on the day, but that's the only one I'm turning up for in terms of mentally. But yeah, I've actively avoided not going to that, as I've actively avoided not going to gyms, as I've said earlier. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's elements in life where you've got to pick your battles at the end of the day. Like, you would want to move into a house that had neighbours either side that listened to drum and bass week in, week out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you would actively avoid buying that house for that reason.
Now, and again, that there's on social media, you talked about the algorithm earlier. You're force-fed stuff that you've shown an interest in, right? So a lot of people show an interest in self-diagnosing mental health issues and going down that route, and they'll click on someone that talks about their mental health. Now, the algorithm, the more you look at it, the more stuff that you'll be fed, and then you'll be fed people that are constantly talking about their problems and their issues. And then there's this association. The more you see it, the more you self-identify. It's like horoscopes that, you're an Aquarius, whatever, or aquarium or whatever it is. Oh, people don't acknowledge how brilliant you are. Yeah, that is me. Oh, yeah, I am funny and unappreciated. And I can't help but think a lot of the negativity around social media and mental health is the fact that people are clicking and their algorithm is pushing forward these ideas and these concepts that don't necessarily correlate to them. They're just, it's feeding it into them, and they're seeing stuff in themselves. And I spoke to Stephen and with Jon about this the other day. It's a really hard ground to traverse, especially for teenagers and kids. And one really cool thing about what you do is you can address that and speak to people and direct them to the charities and the people regionally where they can get involved with actual tangible activity in the flesh, where they can be around other people. They can put their phones and iPads away and screen time, and they can actually get real with people, and they can talk and communicate. And I think when you go back to that, everyone bloody says it. I put my phone away for an hour and I felt really good. Or I was talking to my partner a bit more. Or, we went on a retreat and we got to know each other. And it was so nice not having my phone near me. It's like, well, fucking yeah. Now what? How are you going to learn from that? I think just a little bit of, like you said, just a little bit of like a reining it in and curtailing some of the content we're kind of ingesting. if you want negativity in your life, the prime example was the bloody pandy. Every day at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, what was it on the TV? Some scruffy head lunatic telling us how many people had died that day because of this virus. I'm like, where's the positive? Positive, yeah. It's like, from where I'm sitting, I'm sat at home being locked in. I'm with my 1 and 3 year old kid. Then my gym in my garden that I'd set up, living the dream. And yet, if I was to believe everything that I'd heard on the news, I'd be a mess. But I was living the dream back then for like those 4 or 5 months where we were locked in. I think I'm very fortunate where I'm at an age where I didn't grow up with social media, and I feel really, really hard for the parent. How old are your kids? Sorry.
So my eldest is 11.
Right.
11, 8, and 7. So
okay.
It's the 11-year-old's got a phone now, but we held off until this year to give him a phone because, and then we obviously did the restricted times and stuff like that because we're a fitness family. Ultimately, he comes in the gym more than he goes on his phone. So it's kind of, we're lucky in that sense, a bit like yourself, where I believe that parenting can still help with all of this in terms of if you're a parent that provides activities that don't require social media, that will lead them towards a future that doesn't depend on social media. But that's just my belief. And
the link between that, what you've just said, what I've just said about the pandemic, and then what we've got in this comment, how much does food and nutrition play a role in mental health, right? So instead of the bumbling buffoon coming on and telling us how many people died every day and offering us 50% off vouchers for KFC, how about a daily recipe card, how to cook sessions, what macros are, how to live healthier? How about information around that? Right, that could have probably been a lot better use of money and time as well.
Yeah.
How much does food and nutrition play a role in mental health? I don't think it can be a cure for anything. However, I think it can be a good precursor and a helping and an assistance to a recovery or a way of thinking. Because I had the other day, I'll be honest, I ate like a complete prick the other day. My wife cooks brownies and stuff, and I probably had about 5 too many on a day. The day after, I was shit. I felt so groggy. I've bad mood, really miserable. I can't help but think, if that's perpetually how people are fueling their body, I know why that could lead down certain routes if you are susceptible already to mental health issues, or if you've got existing ones. I guess that's probably a thing there, but yeah.
So my answer to that is nutrition plays a huge part. Ultimately, it's our fuel. No different to if you put the wrong petrol in your car. If you put diesel instead of petrol, the car's going to stop, isn't it? Like, it's not going to work. You need to fuel your body correctly. Now, I'm not sitting here with the perfect body to be able to tell you to eat the perfect meals all the time, but I do believe in a balanced lifestyle. And like you say, maybe if you'd have only had 1 brownie instead of 6, you wouldn't have felt shit the next day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's about understanding your limitations. And yes, food and nutrition is absolutely paramount to mental health, because ultimately it can lead to mental health problems, i.e. eating disorders. Bodybuilders, for example, it's a world that I'm not familiar with personally, but I do know a lot of bodybuilders, and they suffer with their mental health issues because of food and around food, because they overstate and overplay their diet, they starve themselves, and they put their own body through, again, poor nutrition, really, because it's not balanced. So it's not about having the perfect diet. It's about having a balanced diet. And that would be my advice on that side.
It's funny, isn't it, with all of this, is that think about smoking as a prime example, right? Smoking cigarettes. We know damn well if you smoke cigarettes, it might feel nice for 5 minutes, but you are not doing a very good job of looking after yourself, for those around you, and it's not healthy. It's negative. It's purely negative, but people do it. Why is that? It's addictive. It's an addiction. And people will come up with all sorts of excuses and reasons as to why they will continue to smoke. Ultimately, be accountable. It's your fault. You are smoking. You're choosing to smoke, even with all of that knowledge and know abouts and advertisements and the packets that have got it. And in the UK, they're hidden now. You can't see the cigarettes on display. They're blackened out with a cloak or a wardrobe or cupboard, and it says ask about tobacco products. You can't see it in shops, which I think is fantastic. They've taken away that visual, has helped. And smoking is, I don't know about you, Liam, but I rarely see smokers anymore. Like from when I think back to when I was in my teens, the amount of smokers was massive. We had a smoking ban in pubs in 2007. That has gone so far as to curtail a lot of younger smokers. That's one thing that we know damn well is negative, yet people do it. It's an addiction. Now, with social media, with screens, with screen time, with food, with sugars, with certain things, with activities, once you've acknowledged that you're addicted to a certain thing, you then have to put in place the remedy for that and to limit your time, to take action on it. And I think the one thing that we fall into the trap of is saying that it's a necessary evil, that we have to have it. We fall into these traps of saying, well, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. You have to draw a line at some point, and you have to say, I'm choosing to put myself in this bad space. I need to take action, and I need help. But maybe you need help with it. We all need help from time to time. So with Together We Lift, what you've put in place is a route forward for people to take action via a proxy. You know, having someone else to assist you, to help you with that is awesome. You guys are a vessel towards these helping channels. One thing that we noticed, so I live on the Isle of Man. I don't know if you know where that is, but moved here about 3 years ago. My mum's from the Isle of Man originally. One of the many reasons we moved here was to take away and eliminate a lot of potential for the kids to be less active, to have that excuse of, oh, well, I need to give them the iPad because they can't do anything else. My kids have been outside, what is it now? 12 o'clock. My kids have been outside for about 3 hours playing with my mates. Not a screen in sight. They're 8 and 6. They're playing around. If we'd have been where we lived before, they'd have probably, we were on a main road, we're in a busy urban neighborhood in the greater London area. They wouldn't have been doing what they can do. We made giant steps. We took massive pay cuts. We've sold gyms. We've moved away so that we can facilitate that and we can homeschool. Now, it's not to look down on people. It's not to say that other people, but for us, we took this massive risk and step in order to do that. Do you think that more people need to take larger steps for those health? Because we all know that health is important. We all know if you sat down and said to someone, what is more important than your child's health and mental well-being? Every single adult and parent on earth would say it's right at the top. Right at the top is your child. Why? What is more important, and why don't people take those steps to get there quicker? If that is the number one priority, why wouldn't you do that? As a parent and as a dad, do you feel that that's the case? Do you feel that people do enough of that?
No. And again, like, I put myself in that bracket, as I say, when I was going through lockdown. There was a period of time where I was still working in the corporate world and it was sucking the life out of me. But we took a big step to step away from that. And again, I was earning good money, nice cars, nice holidays, all the rest of it. We've taken all that away. You know, I talk about the Aberdeen event last year. We when I traveled up for that event, I didn't have a pot to piss in. I had no money at all. I had the van and the fuel in the van. I didn't have a hotel booked. I didn't have any money for dinner, but I was willing to sacrifice all of that so that I could get out of the corporate world and provide something that provided purpose. And we talked about it earlier. For me, made me realize my potential. And obviously that comes back down to the kids and being able to spend more time with the kids. Since leaving the corporate world, I've not missed a nativity play. I've not missed a sports day, none of it. I've been at every last one. Whereas back in the day, my diary was dictated by the workforce. Now, I'm not saying everyone should become self-employed and take control in that way, but I do think that you have control over your own lifestyle. And if you're unhappy in it, you need to make a change. And like you say, if that's affecting your children, all the more reason to.
I think, well said. And I think a lot of people convince themselves that they are locked in, that they can't escape, that they can't go anywhere, that they are locked into this job, that they don't have options. There's always options. There's
It's just
always a chance.
how hard are you willing to work? So again, like,
Yeah.
if you'd have said to me 3 years ago, do I want to be in a van on my own going up to Aberdeen and not have any food or anything or any way of survival, basically, no, I don't want to be there, but I'm willing to go there to make something work. And that's sometimes what you've got to just remember is ultimately, I personally find that I fight better when my back's against the wall. And sometimes you have to put yourself in that uncomfortable situation to realize how strong or weak you are. And ultimately, I think we're all a lot stronger than we think we are. And there's people around us. And, these, community interest companies and charities, they haven't built themselves. They've been built by communities. Like, I haven't done this on my own. There's clues in the title, Together We're Stronger. And you realize that when you're fighting, people will join the fight and they will come in and help you out because they realize what you're doing is for the right reason. And it's no different to your personal life. Even if you don't have family around you, you'll have friends. You'll have someone that's willing to back you when no one else can. So that's just my way of looking at it. Obviously, it can be an unhealthy attitude to have if you really aren't necessarily skilled to be able to do that. And I get, like, if somebody, let's say, is working a 9 to 5 at an Amazon warehouse, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But there's always this, you see it at the gym, right? So to use the example that we'll all understand is there's always that person in a class that will say, I'm not going to do this because, and as a coach, it's our job to, on the one end, understand that they might be going through something and they might have a valid reason. They might be going for a shitter at home or at work, and they're not in a space where they're going to want to do a minute sprint on the bike, or they might want to do heavy cleans, or they might not want to do pull-ups. They might want to scale it and change. But on the other end of it, we need to know when to hold people accountable and to be that hard voice in their ear to hold them to account and to push them through those uncomfortable times. And what the gym offers, I call it the gym, let's just call it the gym for now. The gym offers this testing ground for where we're at mentally. It's an opportunity every day to see where you're at, to check in mentally. How hard am I willing to push for something? How hard am I going to change up? How much am I going to change away from what I know I can do because of where I am today? And and this is why I love the morning classes, because you get the people coming in and they're setting the rest of their day up in that class. They're testing where they're at. Some days they'll come in and they are double hard bastards and they'll go to town. And then you usually find that day they've gone and fucking crushed at work. Like they've made a big sale, or they've managed to, build half of the fence that they were going to do and they couldn't think they could do, whatever it might be. They have gone crushed day. And then you get the people that come in and they've had a half-assed workout in the morning, and you find out they're going through the ringer at work and they're not really feeling it. It's why I love about, Jake, I'm not going to do by my stats because, and that's my crutch, is that the gymnastics side of it for me at the gym, I'm just not interested. I'm not holding myself to account there. And that's fine. I own that. Can I do them? Yes. But I'm not very good at it. But that's on me. That's on me. And I own that. And Sean's a semi-mate of mine. So we go back and forward on that. But that's the thing. We have to own and be accountable for our shit and acknowledge it. It's okay to be accountable and to say, I'm not doing this at the moment. But if only more people did that, if only more people said, do you know what? I'm eating like a prick at the moment, but that's on me. Yeah. And there's a reason for it. The reason is that I'm going through a bit of a shitty time elsewhere, and I need this release. I need it. We're all human. We need those outlets. Sometimes a bit of a brownie or 6 might be better than going and crushing myself in a workout to get that release or whatever. It might be, but the all under the umbrella of we are learning and we're being accountable and we're progressing forward rather than stagnating and constantly using it. You get the same on the other end, the people that are crushing themselves every day in the gym, their step counting, their calorie counting, they're eating fucking chicken salads every day. That's not sustainable. That's equally not as good for your mental health. Is if you're
And
one
that's
extreme
what I
or
was
the
saying
other.
earlier about bodybuilders. Like they push themselves too far. Whereas, like you say, it's about having that balanced lifestyle and also making sure that, like you said, you're holding yourself accountable. So if you are falling short, so if I go to a competition, for example, and I finish 4th instead of 3rd, and it was because I took 2 days off in the gym the week before, I probably should just go, you know what, that was on me. I can't blame anyone else. I can't blame the judge for giving me a no rep. It's on me. I didn't knock out quick enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
it's about accountability. And I think balanced lifestyle is, for your mental health, the best way about it. And that's why CrossFit in itself is quite unique, because you work so hard that you can actually kind of eat what you want a bit more. Like, yes, you can. But like, if you weren't doing that much calorie burning in a session, for example, those brownies would feel even worse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you know what? Oh man. So I'm not a Christian. I'm an agnostic atheist, but I follow these. I take a lot of value from religions and different theisms, theologies. And I saw this guy talking the other week, and it went down a storm up here, right? So it was this guy and saying about these two. There's these two guys on stage, and they look very, very different. So one of them, they're both American. One's this American white guy who kind of looks a bit like sort of me, just average sort of physique and not particularly, godlike. And then there's this black guy stood next to him. He looks like a fucking Adonis, like just perfection embodied, right? And they're talking, and basically the point is they go to the gym, they lift the same weights, their 1RMs are the same, everything is the same in the gym. They perform exactly the same. He said the difference is that when this guy, he comes to the gym for the gym and takes away the values and implements them into his life. I come to the gym so that I can be a complete dickhead outside of the gym and eat what I want. But I don't get the true value and benefit out of being at the gym because I ruin it all outside of the gym. And they're drawing these parallels between using the Bible and people going to church to expunge themselves of the rest of their life and getting forgiven for shit. Whereas people going to church and getting value, getting meaning and understanding of how to be a better human outside of the gym, they're the people that are really getting the benefit out of it. And it really hit home, even though, I took a lot of value from that. So one thing that I'm really, trying to talk to my clients at the moment is about intent. Why are you at the gym? What are you getting out of the gym? Are you just ticking boxes here? But one major box that we all have and we can all get of it is what you're supplying. Somewhere to be accountable, someone to talk to, someone to get help from, somewhere to help people. You don't have to just be a coach to help people at the gym. A lot of the time, how many people go to a gym and forge this insanely strong connection with another member because they've talked, they've opened up, and they've become really good mates? It's at every gym. So at
our events, we do it as equal ability groups, and we find that really does then set that whole precedence of creating a friendship with someone because you're on their level. You're not comparing yourself to the Adonis that's been training for 20 years and is dieting well hard just to be there. You are comparing yourself to someone of an equal ability in terms of experience and lifts. So when you sign up for an event with us, you basically go through the list and say, my deadlift is this, my overhead is this, my weight is this, blah, blah. So you give us your information so that we can put you into the correct group so that on the day, you're not sat there comparing yourself to someone else and negatively impacting your mental health. Because what you're going to then do is work with those people around you. Because if your PB is 100 kg on a deadlift, but somebody comes up behind you and does 300, you're no longer happy with the 100 you've just hit. You then get knocked back. But if you're in a group full of people all striving for that 100, you're pushing each other as hard as you possibly can because you know how hard that is because it's hard for you. So then working in that equal ability group does help. And I think that's what happens as well when we talked about community fitness. When you go to a group class or anything like that, you see so many friendships form because they realize they can push each other because they know where they've been or where their level is, and they can push them to that next level. And I think that's what happens within gym settings in general on a community base, not on the sort of faceless gyms we were talking about earlier, but on the independent gym scene, on CrossFit gyms, High Rocks gyms, they're all geared up for that kind of mentality.
Yeah, I do agree there. I think to build on that, I think it's really important that we grow, like you're talking about CrossFit here,
Mm.
that we grow to the point where we understand that everyone's initial starting point is going to be very different. So if you look at if you get two 35-year-olds that come into the gym, one of them has been lifting, has been an athlete at a national level since the age of 5, then you get another one that's never been in the gym before. They're both 35. They're both going to have very, very different starting points. It's really important to understand that people getting in the gym for a start is a massive hurdle for a lot of people. It's intimidating from the outskirt. You know, this is where advertising comes into it and what media you're willing to put out, which is why the CrossFit media has changed over the years. Rather than just being games athletes, we need representation of all the types of people that go to the gym. You go into a CrossFit gym anywhere on earth, what are the chances of having someone that's built for the CrossFit Games? Very, very small. The average person doesn't look like that. It's why we need representation in media, which is something that Athena talks about. Athena Perez from Scale Nation talks about that a lot. How often do you see a morbidly obese person in advertising for a gym? Very, very rarely. However, in every single CrossFit gym, you do have at a bare minimum 1 or 2 people that would fall into that category. We need to show different groups that it's okay that we are for anyone. Anyone can come to our gyms. We want you in there because as a gym owner, as a coach, if you are a true CrossFit methodology coach, you want the most vulnerable people in your society and your community to come into that gym so you can make the biggest impact. Getting someone from 17 muscle ups to 18 does not interest me whatsoever. That's not what I'm interested in. I want to get that person to live an extra 10 years. For me, that is the biggest deal. And again, that can apply to mental health as well. So from what you were saying, getting people into the gym, into these groups where they're at an equal footing, an equal place to people, it's like the Silvers Club or the Greys Club or whatever you want to call it. People that are over a certain age of 60, being a 65-year-old that's never set foot in the gym, that can't do a press up, can't hinge properly, you've had a double hip surgery. Imagine walking into a CrossFit gym and it's all 25 to 40-year-olds that are doing muscle ups, box jumps at 50 inches and doing 100 kilo snatches. You walk into that class, what chances are you going to have of coming in again? Probably very, very minimal. You need, and this is what Hobart was talking about the other day, having grown as a community, as a methodology, as a setting as a CrossFit gym, we have changed over the last 5 years, and it's a really positive thing. We can have different classes for different people with, and this is the caveat for me personally, with the end goal of getting all of those people into the general classes. For me, that's the ultimate goal, to break down those barriers initially, to make people understand that it's okay to be at a different performance level to other people in the class, to earn the respect of the individual coming in and their trust so that they know they can partake in the sessions with the games athlete, with the 15-year-old gymnastic phenom, with the fire-breathing 45-year-old that can do fucking 200 kilo snatches. Everyone deserves a place in that class, but sometimes some people are going to need a bit of convincing. That's why the on-ramp or the induction settings were pivotal early days for CrossFit. And why it's such a big thing, and we can have these really thriving communities, which is awesome to see. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. Sorry, Liam. I know I've taken way more of your time than I asked for. So, next steps for Together We Lift. What are your goals for the next year, and then foreseeable future for the next 5 years, if you've got those?
Yeah. So obviously, where we've come from. We've done 9 events so far, raised £13,000 for 6 localized mental health charities. And that's what I mean by we're supporting the local mental health charities. So we're not fundraising for us. Our events are about the local mental health charities. Anything we fundraise outside of that, so if we sell T-shirts, hoodies, gym flags, whatever, that goes into the Together We Lift pot to allow us to cut the costs of the events, as I said earlier, so that we can one day make them free events and start getting people to fundraise for the event, as opposed to making it what it is at the moment, where we're having to sell tickets for people to come and then we take a split of the profit to pay for the event, and then the other half goes to the mental health charity. We want to get to a position where it's easier to get mum and dad to give you £5 each and then get your £5 from Johnny or whatever than it is to just pay £30 from us. Do you know what I mean? We want people, that's where we want the events to get to. So next year we plan on having 5 events. I actually met with the planning director on Tuesday night, actually, so it's fresh in my mind. We've got 5 events next year, all around the UK again, Aberdeen, Swansea, Cambridgeshire, Kent, being sort of events we've done before. And then outside of that, working more with these fundraising elements where gyms kind of take ownership of it and say, we want the barbell to be one of the event stations at our event. Okay, no problem. We'll come down with a banner and then they can donate X percentage to us as payment for the bar, so to speak, to be there. We'll send one of the volunteers to do that. We also want to be at things like SID, like FitFest, any of the events really, so that we can just grow exposure and provide a safe place for people to want to talk. As I say, when we were at SID, we had 106 people on the bar, but I probably had 200 conversations about mental health. That's the dynamic we want. It's not about selling. It's not about doing certain things. It's about just being there and being able to be an outsource for people, like I say, to be able to then go, right, let's signpost you. Okay, what area are you in? Okay, well, I've got a link to the charity there, and they might be able to tell you about a peer-to-peer support group. The long-term vision, as I said earlier, is very much about making sure that we can signpost people to gyms that have mental health first aid training and make sure that we provide that mental health first aid training. So within the 5-year plan, that's part of our goal, is to kind of get that training onboarded for ourselves so that we can go out and do that, get the training done, or work with the local mental health charity to provide the training and again, secure the funding to do that. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. 5 years is sort of as far as we've got. 10 years, I'd like to sort of change things at a government level. So that it becomes an industry point, so that on your level 2 qualification for personal training or coaching, you have to do mental health first aid training. Because my fear is, we know we're therapists, right? But how many people come out of school and think, I'm going to be a PT because I love fitness, but then don't necessarily understand the personable element? They haven't got the life skills, haven't got the life experience to then be able to make those sort of, or spot those signs. They're the ones that really need the mental health first training the most. And if when they're getting their level 2, they can then receive that, I think would be hugely beneficial to gyms and people around the country. We can kind of save lives from the front line instead of, waiting until it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. Being referred to us. The last question then, if I am either a local charity, if I'm a club, or I'm an individual, what's the best way to get in contact with you? So if you are, as Together We Lift, let's start with the charities first. If I'm a local charity and I want to work with you or want to get involved, is it going via the website to get in contact?
So at the moment, we've got the Buds Fitness website hosts everything. That's my family-run business. That's me and my wife. So you can go on there, and there is a contact form that you can fill out. We will have a Together We Lift website, but once we've got the funding to be able to pay for it. So we're kind of chicken and egg situation. We're kind of too big to not have a website, but we're too small to be able to fund a website at the moment. So it is very much a case of it goes through Buds Fitness at the moment, or you can go on our Instagram page and all of the directors have access to it. So it will never get missed. One of us will catch it at some point, and then we'll have a conversation. We always make sure that when we work with a charity, we have a video call and an understanding of their business, so that we're not kind of just supporting a charity because they asked for it. We want it to be a collaboration. We want them to understand that if they're signing up to support our event, we want them there on the day so that we can signpost to them on the day. We need them to be able to provide assets such as leaflets and guidance through websites so that we can then follow up afterwards. And they have to be able to work with peer-to-peer support groups. They can't be isolated units. If they're a charity that just wants to work with themselves and are isolated, we won't work with them. We want to work with gyms and charities that collaborate and want to collaborate.
Yeah, 100%. Awesome. So Instagram's probably in the short term anyway, probably the most direct and easy way to get in contact with you. Lovely.
Yeah. So together.we.lift.events is our Instagram. We are on Facebook under Together We Lift as well. And as I say, if not through there, then the Buds Fitness website and info app is our best remit.
Say what, I will pull up 1 second. I'll just put it up so everyone can see quickly.
Yeah.
Share. There we go. Together.we.lives.events.
Yeah.
Little bit about yourself at the top and the events, your ambassadors, your coaches that you've got in there. Oh, big Gav. You know what? It's funny. I got a mate, Craig, who looks like a tiny, tiny mini version of him from back in the day. So, whenever I see him, I just think, oh, and Chloe's there. So we, John and I had Chloe on our other show a little while ago talking. She's fucking amazing, isn't she?
She's incredible.
What a powerhouse she is, eh?
So she's coaching we're doing a sort of collaborated event. So when we talk about holistic coaching and talking about all elements of mental health and fitness, her business, Holistic Strength Coaching, does provide that. So we're doing a collaboration. It's the first time we've done anything like that, and we're actually working directly with their team. They're going to run the event stations, so you get to learn and understand more about what they do as well as what we do, so that we can almost signpost to her, because what she delivers is exceptional. So yeah, and then we've got Gavin Bilton in Wales, which out of that Welsh event, we've got, I think, probably 6 national champions from the Wales strongman scene, strong women scene as well. We've got Beth Grice in there, Faye Pittman. She used to be a Commonwealth weightlifter, Commonwealth Games weightlifter. So really stacked lineup of coaches. And I just want to reiterate that every person that does these events is a volunteer, not one coach. Earlier this year, we had Mark Felix, Lucy Underdown. We've had Terry Hollands. Like, all these people have given up their time free of charge to come to our event and train our athletes, which is outstanding. And as I say, that's something I'm so proud of, that, you know, it's a community effort. It's not like, that's why I don't like talking about me. It's not about me. This is a community effort. Like, nobody's going to pay 30 quid to listen to me do 4 event stations. Do you know what I mean? Like, but what they will do is pay 30 quid to listen to Gavin Bilton, who's been 3 times world's strongest man, who's been Welsh national champion 3 times. Like, that's who you want to learn from, and that's why I'm so excited to be getting these guys on board and supporting it.
Amazing. Well, Liam, you're doing a really good job, and I know you don't like compliments, but you should be proud of the work you're doing, mate, and where you've come from in the last few years. Insanely valuable to the community. So be really proud of your work, mate. And I'm really looking forward to working with you moving forward. We'll have you on the show again sometime after you've done a few events, so we can talk about them. But cheers for coming on. Really appreciate it. We appreciate your time and all the efforts you're putting forward. So we're really lucky to have you over here. So
thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to get the brand recognized and get the movement moving. So thank you very much for that. And thanks to Luke for obviously introducing us. So yeah, that was really good. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, mate.
Yeah, nice one, Liam. Thank you very much. I'm going to carry on the show now, but I'll be in touch after when I come off.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
No problem, mate.
Cheers, Liam. Thank you. Bye-bye. What a dude, eh? See, important to give people voices, I think, with different ways of approaching topics and conversations. With I think there's a lot of it's really hard to articulate without seeing nasty, isn't it? There's a lot of people on social media that talk about mental health really negatively and go down the making it about them route, which I guess is the very essence of it. You need to be able to associate and listen to someone with authenticity, but at the same time, it's what I asked Liam about earlier, treading that line between being authentic and genuine and being able to talk about experience, but on the other side of it, not coming across as like a wet blanket. It's bloody tough. And I think it's why a lot of people avoid doing it, because they don't want to be one or the other. So treading that line is a real tough job. So people like Liam are awesome to have in our community, and we're very lucky to have people like that. Sean, if you had to choose between aerobic fitness and strength training 50 plus for pure longevity, which would you choose? That's a would you rather, isn't it? Recent studies have shown. So there's all those things, isn't there, about you see them coming out with numbers and research papers and this, that, and the other. But the one that always gets brought up is I think it was 3 MRI scans of 80, I think it was 85-year-olds. One of them was a sedentary 85-year-old. One of them was a triathlete. And one of them was just a regular sort of 85-year-old. And it was the predictor of health and longevity was muscle mass, rather than anything else like heart being active or whatever. And they used it. So, and I might have a bias here, but the healthiest people that I know at an older age are the ones that hold muscle mass, obviously to an extent. And this is a would you rather. So I'd rather them do CrossFit and be good at everything and have good cardio and muscle mass, which is why I think we've got the solution. You do everything at CrossFit. You're not just hyper fixating on one element of the pyramid, or with our training. That's the beauty of it. It's generalizing rather than specializing. So there's that question answered. Ken Moores. Exactly. Do you know, Ken's a good example of someone of a certain ilk and age that has taken the bull by the horns and is fucking going hard. And I've got a lot of respect for it, Ken. Hopefully he's not listening. Hopefully he doesn't see this. But I've got a lot of respect for Ken and what he does. Keep it to yourselves though, but don't tell him. If all 80-year-olds, however old Ken, I think Ken's in his early 60s. If all, let's call him 60-year-olds were in Ken's shape and doing what he does, we'd have a lot of healthier people floating around. Sean, where's my Isle of Man Wilson shirt? It's in the post. I'll be honest, I haven't sent it yet. I will send it though. I've got something to send to the US anyway as well, so I'll do some posting there. If anyone wants to support Isle of Man weightlifting, let me know. DM me, slide into my DMs. Selling t-shirts to help us get ourselves to the Commonwealth Games next year for weightlifting. We had some good news last week, is that one of our lads, Alfie, has been called up at the age of 16 for British squad for para. He's going to the Para World Champs in October. So that's really bloody cool. That's the only way to be with people that you like, though, and respect. You can't expect to be constantly nice with people. It doesn't fare well. It doesn't bode well. If someone's always nice to me, something's up. Something's wrong. They've got an ulterior motive. I know when I'm friendly with someone, or when someone respects me or is friendly with me, because they give me shit. That's how I know they're all right. If someone's constantly giving compliments and, yeah, you're the best and blah, 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 I don't want them anywhere near me. That being said, please like and subscribe. Share the love. Anyone got any questions before I shoot off? I've got a bike ride to go on. I don't think there's anything scheduled in for today. Now, obviously, they'll go live whenever the hell they want. I'm not sure there's any particular. No, there isn't. Broadcasts today. Obviously, there will be tomorrow. But at the moment, they're just sort of putting them in where and when. Yeah, nice people aren't good. So tip to tip. Yeah. Do you like the graphic? So yeah, we got some news on there taking about, yeah, just dislike, just do loads of dislikes everywhere. We've got a show tip to tip later, me and Yoni Boy. So we're doing that. There's a really good graphic for that we've added. Yeah, there you go. So I am. What shows have I got coming up? I have got some really fucking cool shows coming out. Excuse the French. So on the 5th, so that's next week, isn't it? So next Thursday, I've got Henrik Almers from Coaches Congress, founder over there. He is such a cool dude. Won't go into that now, but show is this time next week, so 11 a.m. GMT. So it's whatever time this was for you today. Same time next week. Got Henrik on. We're looking to Coaches Congress and all things that. I've got Gretchen Kittelberger from International Functional Fitness Federation on the 8th, which is, I think, so Sunday at 7 o'clock, talking about the IF3, which is a really, really cool aspect of what we do. Hello. Thank you, Keena. That's lovely for you to say. Thank you very much. All the names are weird again. It's whenever Sevi goes away to an event, it screws up all of this. And is it because they don't use the Roadcaster? They use the other thing. I don't know why it would do it, but all the names are funny again. Rather than just our handles. Anyway, so thank you, Keena. Much appreciated. What was I saying? Yeah, so got IF3 on there. And then on the 12th, I've got Matthias Hernandez, who is the CEO of Velites, coming on. And he is coming on the 12th. We're going to talk about the company, how the games went, because that will obviously be behind us by then. But yeah, the lads and the lasses are all going live throughout over the weekend. Obviously, as you guys all know, it's why you're really here. So keep an eye out for that. We'll try and put some socials out just to let everyone know when we're going live on that. But there we go. And look out for Garrett. She's on the scene with the lads and Jenny. She'll be going live after each event, talking about them and going there. So that's cool. And there we go. I think that's it. But thank you all for joining me. Much appreciated. And thank you for Liam for coming on. I really appreciate his time and his efforts. Really cool movement. I know I said about it briefly earlier, but we were at Sid, Strength in Depth, and saw the stand there and just started talking to his brother Luke about what they do. And yeah, really just cool collection of people. There's so many cool people in our community. So many out there just doing Ride Only Fairies. Maybe one later. No, we're next time on the ferry. The ferry is Rogue. We're doing a holiday. We're doing a week away in Scotland. We're going to Scotland. We're making a week of it, going for Rogue. It's maybe seeing a few people on the way. But no ferries until then. Thank you for giving me company while I get ready. Well, thank you, Megs. Thank you for joining me. Much appreciated. Right, so have a lovely day, everyone. If I don't see you in the chat, will you be having the black sausage always? Do you mean black pudding? Probably. Love a bit of black pudding. Delicious, very rich, very good for you. It's just blood, fried blood in a sausage. Bang, there you go. Yeah, if I don't see you in the chat later, I will see you on Tip to Tip with me and Johnny Boy on the Glinton channel at 7 p.m. GMT. So in about 6 and a bit hours, we'll be there. Speaking of ferries, Kill Taylor's up 5. It was today, isn't it? Blimey. That's a bit later than us. Yeah, that's cool. So it's quite late for us. It'll be about 11 p.m. I think for us. We'll see. Anyway, good. Have a lovely day, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and I appreciate your time, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Bye.